Hey guys, Youngblood with you with your Should You Buy video on the new Apollo from RSI. And if you're not familiar, the Apollo is actually a concept sale that's now on sale for $225 war bond, i.e. cash only, or $250 using credits, and basically becomes your third medical ship option, with the Cutlass Red and Endeavor Hope both being the prior offerings. Now remember, ships now only come with LTI if you're paying new money exclusively. So if you want the credit version, you're going to end up getting 6 months of insurance. The Apollo is a really cool looking ship with some nice design elements that almost make it feel like a blend between some of the newer Starship Enterprise models combined with a Constellation. The interior has similarities in design to the Constellation, but everything looks quite a bit more sleek and futuristic. You got some nice windows on the interior, some nice angles. It's also pretty bright. And as far as interior layout goes, you have a bridge up front with some crew area there, and an elevator towards the back of the bridge for entering the ship. Also in that area, you've got 2 beds that function as an escape pod. You've got a pantry or kind of a kitchen area, and you get a shoilet, or what I'm starting to call the shower and toilet combo. As you exit the bridge and you move backwards, you're going to get into the core medical area, and that's where you're going to end up finding a corridor that has 2 modular rooms, one on either side, which is where your med stations are, and each of those ends up having its own bathroom connected to it. To the back of that, you're also going to have a reception area where you could keep track of the work you're doing to the patients. Moving a little bit further back past reception, you're going to find an airlock that has a cargo room on the side that also connects to the reception area, which basically means that you're easily able to bring supplies into the operating area. And on the other side of that, you end up having a ship components room where you can kind of take care of your ship. And then finally, as you go through the airlock to the back of the ship, you have a large ramp to make loading cargo and exiting the ship easy, and the cargo ramp is said to deploy really quickly so you can get people in and out fast, which in medical emergencies is obviously going to be relevant. Now, where things start to get a little bit interesting is with the medical modules room. And what makes it interesting is the way the beds are going to work here. There's 3 known types of beds at this point that have differing levels of capability, and likely differing sizes. A Tier 3 bed is going to be capable of stabilizing any injury, but only for a limited amount of time. And it has the ability to heal a Tier 3 type of injury, or basically the lowest type of injury. So that means if someone is very, very critical and you have a T3 bed, you could technically stabilize them, but you'd have to take them to a more capable ship or facility in some undetermined time frame. A Tier 2 bed can stabilize any injury, but is only able to heal a Tier 2 or a Tier 3 on its own, and it sounds like at this point a Tier 1 bed can stabilize or heal just basically about anything, but the gameplay for medical is still being worked out, and I'm going to cover that more later. Now, why that's relevant here is because you have 2 modules. Each of them has 3 Tier 3 beds in it. So with the default configuration, you could heal up to 6 people with minor injuries or transport 6 people that have more critical ones. But you're going to be relying on another place to actually do the healing work. Now, you will get flexibility at some point to be able to change these modules out, though, to where you could maybe put in 2 Tier 2 beds per side or 1 Tier 1 bed per side, or some combination like 3 Tier 3s on one side and a Tier 1 on the other. A balance of these types is probably the best option unless you're working in a fleet where you've got an Endeavor Hope around to help with the load, in which case 6 Tier 3s is probably going to be your best bet. Now, another thing that's interesting about the ship is that you have some medical retrieval drones that can exit underside of the bed to go find players that are floating in the black and bring them back to the ship to be healed. And these drones are basically going to be able to function as gurneys as well. Now, in addition to all of that, the ship is supposed to come with a large radar that is going to help you in finding beacons and players that may need assistance. The ship is designed as a 2-person crew, but with 6 beds for patients, I think it makes sense to have more people on board, especially if you can support them in other ships. So the worst case scenario is with 2 beds on board, you could easily support 3 people. The only consideration there is you may struggle a little bit with escape pod usage, but who knows. Now, the idea in the balance of the medical ships is that the Cutlass Red becomes the ambulance, more or less, where it functions more as a small, where this one, the actual Apollo, ends up functioning more as a small mobile clinic capable of reaching the edges of systems, and then you've got the Endeavor, which is the fully functioning hospital. For comparison, the Cutlass Red is now targeted to have a single Tier 3 bed, so you can see that's quite a difference there. Now, other statistics to consider, the ship is 43 meters long, it's 30 meters wide, it's 10 meters high. Now there are two versions of this ship. You've got the base triage model, and then you've got a Medivac variant, with the Medivac being locked unless you score 100,000 points in a mini game that's available on the website. The SCM speed for the triage is 205 meters per second. The Medivac is actually slower at 195. However, it does come with better armor, it has ballistic Gatlings on the turret instead of laser cannons, and it also comes with 4 size 2 missiles that are available on 2 separate racks. The triage is mostly red, while the Medivac is grayish-white with some red accents. Both ships have the previously mentioned large radar. They also come with large power plants and large coolers, while carrying medium computers, fuel intakes, tanks, quantum drives, jump drives, quantum tanks, and shield generators. It actually seems like quite the powerful ship, meaning that there's not going to be much of a sacrifice on your components, especially with limited weaponry, which becomes even more relevant with the Gatlings on the Medivac version because you don't have the weapon power draw. Thrusters-wise, we have 4 VTOL thrusters, which should make it for easy up and down on surfaces. There's also 2 main and 2 retro thrusters, which should mean decent start and stop ability. And with 12 maneuvering thrusters, while with a relatively heavy mass, it should handle acceptably. And basically what you're getting is a controllable ship with some nav abilities, meaning that you're ideally set up to find people, have the power that you need, and get the control that you need to get there in a timely manner. So, should you buy the Apollo? Well, for some, I think the idea is great. You know, if you're really interested in medical gameplay, and after what we learned today about the Cutlass Red and only being able to have a Tier 3 bed, this ship becomes really interesting, especially having the ability to have different configurations and carry up to Tier 1 beds, which feels way better. Now, sure, you don't have the side doors, but you do have drones. So I kind of get the feeling that this means the Red is more of a search and rescue ship, more designed to get people and get them into an atmospheric condition quickly. But maybe not focus so much on healing, but more on finding those who had to bail from their ships, where you do have the ability to hold someone over until you can get them to a destination, or maybe they scratch their arm and you can fix them up a little bit. The Apollo, on the other hand, has more of a focus on what you want the focus to be. You know, if you're part of a large convoy and a big ship goes down, you have the ability to hold up to 6 people in stability until you get somewhere. Or maybe you have several in your fleet, with one holding only Tier 3 beds, another one that only has Tier 2, and another one that only has Tier 1s. Whatever configuration you want, you get the flexibility, but you can balance and choose targets based on the type of situations people are in. Now, for those of you who have watched me for a while, you know that I love versatility in this game, and boy, does this really do it for me. You know, in the pros category, you've got versatility within the medical role. You get big components for a ship of this size. You get long range, good scanning, a nice design, fair cargo space, and decent speed. Now, on the con side, it's really just the lack of weaponry and the overall versatility into other roles, i.e. you're really in the medical space. Now, you're flexible within that space, but you're not really going to branch out and do cargo or something like that. If you want to do way more than a Cutlass Red, but you don't want the crew requirements, operating cost, and actual financial cost of an Endeavor, this feels like a really well-balanced ship. Now, is it worth $250? Well, it's about twice the price of a Cutlass Red and about half the price of an Endeavor, so it's priced consistently within the line, which I think is fair. Now, are you going to get $250 worth of play out of it? It just kind of depends on your interest. If you want to focus on the medical or you're filling a gap in an organizational fleet, then I absolutely think you would. If you just want to dabble a little bit in the medical and search and rescue fields, then I'd probably get a Cutlass Black and just bank on it being able to drop the medbay in there like they've said at some point, or later just do a CCU from the Black to the Red. Anyway, I'm going to be doing a video soon about the medical profession, so stay tuned for that. And if you have opinions on this ship, please add them in the comments. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for a whole lot more. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.